Okay, should we crack a cold one?
Yeah. Ready?
Wait, no, hold on. Oh, is yours just a lid? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Ooh,
There we go.
that's some nice ASMR right there. If you are fans of sparkling water, get bubbly orange cream. Just orange cream bubbly.
Bubbly orange cream.
Orange cream bubbly, dude. It's like a cream soda, but water. Spicy water.
Spicy water. I don't know if I've ever had bubbly.
Little ASMR episode for you guys today. Keep it up, man. That's good. That was really good. I'm really pumped about that. Literally every day for like 3 years, and I still don't know if we would be able to like just have a good intro, just a normal flowing, just right into it sort of
let's
thing.
Let's just like, hey, so what have you been up to?
Hey,
Nothing.
like recently, like
yeah.
like before this,
What have you been doing?
Like today,
This week,
yesterday,
like I don't know, this week, this month, this year, 2024. What have you been up to? Like,
yeah, man.
Anything big?
Yeah, it's been a good year so far.
I know you hit your 1 year anniversary with Lauren. That's super exciting.
Wait, okay, hold on. What are we doing?
We're just talking about what's been going on.
Okay, I didn't know. So we're starting. That's what happened?
Yep, and go.
Okay.
So what's been going on?
Oh gosh, what's been going on? Do we talk about what's going on first and then be like, yo, welcome back to the Creative Krunch podcast? Or do we go, welcome back to the Creative Krunch podcast and then talk about what's going on? Honestly, I feel like this is good. This is good stuff. This is good content right here.
Yeah, so I'll say welcome back, and you say Creative Krunch to the Creative. All right, everybody, and welcome back
to the Creative Krunch podcast.
Yeah, we're here today with special guest Reed and Ben.
Less special guest Ben. But yeah, welcome back to the podcast. Number 3 of the year. Crazy. Record-breaking year for us, maybe even some would say. But
our first year we did pretty good, but we
was that 2020?
Strong. Yeah,
I think that's 2020. We maybe did like 6 or 7, or like we made the joke that 7. If you don't get to 7, your podcast dies or whatever.
Yeah, that was. We made it. We made it to 7 though.
We made it, and we're still alive. Look at us right now.
Can we get a quick shout out for
Travis?
Nashville.
Oh. Well, shout out Travis first. And then are you talking about
obviously Travis. We love you, Travis. We're your biggest fans. We think about you. We
if my camera wasn't Uh-oh.
You think there's a lag?
I don't know, maybe not. Was there?
You said your camera wasn't what?
No, I was going to make a joke and say if my camera wasn't mounted on a tripod, I'd show you the shrine I have of Travis in my room, but
okay.
Then there was a weird lag thingy, so I don't know. It just didn't. Anyway, shout out Travis and go on with what you were saying.
Yeah, Travis, we care deeply about you. I have you as my number one favorite on my phone contact list, so I can. Whenever I have to put you at like an emergency contact, you're always my first choice. So.
Yeah, I actually just got back from the courthouse. He's actually my godfather now. So.
Did he approve that, or was that just?
I don't think you have to. I think you just go in.
You just volunteered somebody.
Yeah, and it's actually Travis and Joni Films. It's not even just Travis. So I don't know how that works, but
okay.
Papers are signed.
Second shout out goes to Ryan Sims,
Mr. Nashville himself.
Also known as Ember Nash Films. Big hype guy. I've never actually met him in person. I will here at the end of the month.
Heck yeah, we'll have to talk about that trip.
He's he promoted Creative Krunch podcast on his story the other day. That was a big win. That was our main goal going into creating this podcast. We were like, as long as we can get Ryan. So I mean, from here on out, it's kind of just.
Yeah, you'll probably
continue it after.
Yeah, we're really going to start to drop the ball now that we've hit the one goal we've wanted. We put a lot of time and effort into all this, and it's been a lot of work, a lot of work on the back end and the post-production side of things, and like it's pretty much been a nonstop 24/7 grind to get Mr. Nashville himself to give us a shout out. So I think we're going to start to scale back and maybe do 1 or 2 episodes a year now, instead of the multitude of episodes we were releasing the last couple of years. So shout out Nashville.
Yeah. So thanks Ryan for the support. It was a fun run.
Shout out Travis too, though. So.
But yeah, Travis. Big time Travis fans.
Do you think everybody that watches or listens to this, in every single episode, I'm sure there's been a shout out Travis, they're like, who the heck is this Travis guy? Except in the first one.
I'd be sad if they didn't know who Travis was.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious if you're listening, or no. If you're watching on YouTube, can you comment on Spotify too?
Yeah, I think so.
If you're listening or watching and you're able to drop a comment and you're not someone that we know, or even if you are someone we know, let us know you're listening. We don't really know. We know a couple of people that tune into this, but it'd be cool to kind of see like who you are, where you're from, and because that one girl, what was her name on YouTube?
I think it was Olivia,
and then there's like 36422.
Yeah, like 4 numbers like after
that. But yeah, don't be afraid to say hi in the comments. Let us know where you are, and if it's just one of you, we know it's Travis. So, anyways, yeah, welcome back to the Creative Krunch podcast, episode number 3. We're just kind of going off the cuff again today, sort of. We have some notes, but we didn't really talk about it pre-episode. But what's
yeah, I think it's just important to know that we want to share our knowledge of what we've experienced in the last 5-6 years in the wedding industry and in our creative lives. And we like to talk and kind of stay on top of things ourselves just to keep ourselves fresh and in the game. Because especially in these off seasons, gosh, things just start to kind of lull out a little bit and you almost lose touch of your creative process a little bit. So it's good to keep kind of on top of that stuff.
Yeah. The slow season, off season, whatever you call it. It's not really an off season because we're in the editing cave all day and night, but it's definitely easy to get rusty on, the side of things of actually shooting and like preparations and all that stuff. So I think we're just going to kind of talk about the creative process. I know both Ben and I's are fairly similar, but yeah, we'll have Ben just kind of kick it off. He's kind of the person he is the person that came up with this episode. So here we go.
I had some help from ChatGPT.
You either have time to shine or time to absolutely just fail.
Gosh, I'm drinking and I'm like dripping liquid down my beard. Okay, so the creative process. I think the first thing that we could kind of touch on is the prep part of it. Like when you're looking, let's say you have a client reach out, or you have somebody that wants a video of something, whether that's a corporate video or a wedding video. How do you go about brainstorming ideas? This is just me asking you. Like, how do you go about brainstorming ideas for that? The bridal shop stuff. How do you go about brainstorming ideas for that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's different for everybody, and I think it's also different for each project you're working on. So, like, a corporate gig is way different than a wedding gig, obviously for different reasons that we'll get into. But like, brainstorming just kind of starts with, I'm gonna talk. If it's not a video that I want to create myself, and like a client's coming to me and wants something created, I'm going to work with them and talk to them and ask them a bunch of questions, because more likely than not, they should have some decent idea of what they want created. And if they don't, you ask them questions to kind of formulate and brainstorm together. So you ask them questions like, okay, so what's your intention? Why do you want a video? What do you want to come from this? And then you ask them more like corporate questions like, who's your market? Like, who are you trying to reach? Are you trying to reach 18 to 30-year-olds? Or are you trying to reach 40 to 60-year-olds? Because that's going to really determine on like type of video you make, the route you take. And it all just really starts with the communication on the front end. And then from there, I'm not going to go too far into it, but then it just kind of starts to formulate into, whatever your final product's going to end up being. But on the wedding side, it's way different, because it's not way different, because it comes down to just chatting with your couple, getting to know them, asking what it is. I always ask, what do you like about Reed Shepherd Films? Like, what do you like about my work? What about my work is it that speaks to you? Like, what do you want to see in your type of video? And building that relationship. And then obviously the wedding day turns into, what your film is going to look like. I don't know. I felt like I just kind of riffed on that. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are your techniques?
Yeah, that's good. I feel like you definitely have to like test the waters first going into it, especially if it's a corporate client, to kind of see like what they're wanting. But I think on the other hand, you have to kind of coach them a little bit, because I think when it comes down to it, they're hiring you, yes, to make a video, but they're also hiring you for your creativity and your ideas. And so you have to also probably be like, yeah, that's I really like I think they provide the foundation, and then you kind of build from there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's hard, sometimes that's easy, because I feel like all of our ideas come from past things that we've done or we've seen. So if it's something we're not familiar with, it can be really hard to just build something from scratch. You have to go and educate yourself on whatever it is. And
yeah, that's a good point too, because I have a client right now that I'm working for. I'm making some ads for them, and it's kind of an industry that I really don't know anything about. And they came, they said, we want these ads. They kind of gave like specs and stuff of like, it needs to be 4K, there needs to be a vertical one, but really no like foundation of an idea that they want for this kind of stuff. So a lot of this has been me asking a bunch of questions, learning about this industry, communicating, working with other people to kind of essentially group brainstorm. Like, they're kind of coming up with the ideas. I'm just kind of leading the way.
Lauren brought me Culver's. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Lauren. Does she want to say hi? Lauren, do you want to come say hi? Lauren says hi. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
He says hi. All right, keep going.
Sorry, I didn't know if she was bringing in Lucy or something.
No, just Lauren.
But yeah, so it's been like I'm asking questions and then they're telling me, and then, I'll be like, well, what if we did something like this? Or do you think this would work? Or do you think this type of video would reach the audience that you're trying to reach? And so I think it's just very different because I don't know, I'm trying to think of another example or like something that we've done before where someone came to us and they knew exactly what they wanted. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's never happened.
I don't know. I think that we have this weird tendency. Because we're in the wedding industry, there's really like no pre-planning you can do as far as the end product is going to be. Like, you can't go into it being like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this shot and this shot, because when the day comes, you have to go with whatever time you have available. Like you can maybe have shots specifically ready, but like you can't visualize the story fully until the day is done. And so like I think being in the wedding industry, we're so trained to go to these shoots without planning. So we have to completely shift, because for corporate stuff, I feel like you almost need to go to these things with a shot list and kind of an idea like scripted out of what the end product is going to look like. But with weddings, it's not like that at all. So I feel like the creative process for those two things are almost opposite. Like,
yeah,
the creative process for the corporate client, there's a lot of that process that happens before, and then you see that creative process come to life after the fact. But then with the weddings, it's you go into it, you do a bunch of consuming of the wedding day, and then the creative process really starts after the wedding day.
Yeah, I mean, it's just completely different things, because a wedding is a live event, and obviously with live events comes unknowns, comes stresses. It's just an uncontrolled environment. With a corporate gig, 99% of what you do is going to be in a controlled environment, unless you're shooting outside. But even then, you can still, if you're on the higher end of things, like obviously Hollywood can fake any sort of, setting or scenario. But I think the biggest difference is just the live event versus not a live event. And for corporate work, I think most of the work comes on the pre side, like before you even start shooting. And then in a wedding, all of the creative process, I mean, there's a handful of creative things we do on the wedding day, types of shots, angles, all that stuff. But 80% of the creative process is after the wedding, like you were saying, once we start crafting that film and editing. So
yeah, so as far as the wedding day goes, what are some things that you think we can do on the wedding day to get creative? I know we can, obviously, we'll have meetings with the couple and we'll kind of get the vibe, and we'll learn about things that are important to them. Like they'll be like, yeah, we're getting married on it's actually my grandparents' anniversary, so we can make sure that we get shots of like the grandparents. Mm-hmm. And like if they have a wedding photo of their grandparents, we can somehow have we can plan to make some sort of connection on the wedding day with that. But
yeah,
what other things do you think you can do to get creative with the couple?
Well, here's a very specific example. So I had a couple come to me, and they saw one of the videos that we posted, like with the interviews and the trophies and stuff. And that's one of the first things they said to me is like, we love that so much. We thought that was so funny. And then I was like, well, let's try to incorporate that into your wedding day. Like, do you think that would be a good idea? So then this couple actually ended up getting mini trophies, and we did a bunch of interviews through the day. But the bride and groom were walking around with a mini microphone and these trophies and giving away just these absurd awards. The one that I'm thinking of is the father of the bride got an award for best father of the bride while being bald. or something like that. And I don't know, it turned out really funny. I don't know if it's gonna like make it into their end video, but we also did a lot of interviews and stuff through that too, which I will be able to use and I have used in their teaser. But it just kind of comes down to like what I've been doing a lot this year too, is like asking, well, what if we tried to do something like that? Not really shutting anything down. Like obviously there's a lot of things that we're not able to do because of equipment, production, whatever. But like, what if we did this? What if we tried that? So just kind of being open-minded to like, oh, I saw something on a commercial that I thought was really cool. Like, what if we tried that? You're not being like, we're gonna use it, but just having the mindset of like, try to figure it out, try to twist it in your own way. And then usually that's where you come up with some of your most creative ideas. But I think one of the biggest things that you've done, I think there were some people that maybe did it before you too, but was introducing the camcorder into weddings. If you want to talk about that a little bit, I think that is incredibly creative.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily, I think maybe that's just like a creative idea that's kind of been sparked before. Like I saw other videographers using like a camcorder or using like a Super 8 camera to film stuff, but it was from their perspective. And I think I just wanted to be like, I wanted to get a perspective from like their wedding party or friends and family. And so that's where I just was like, I'm going to get this camcorder and give it to the wedding party just to get their perspective. And I like it because it's 100% unstaged footage. Like the weddings are so scripted from the ceremony to the toast. Everything kind of happens in a specific order. But the camcorder footage is just raw, genuine, unstaged, and
it's got
some of my favorite footage.
It's got a very like nostalgic feel to it. So obviously I do it too. I give a camcorder away and I tell them like, I'm just like, think old home videos. And now I'm unfortunately getting to the age, and you are too, where like, you know, maybe not everybody getting married right now had a grandpa or a dad that had like a handy cam walking around, you know. True. That might have been more of a like in the mid 90s thing. But like, yeah, just telling them like, think home video, old home video, like you'd see of your parents or whatever. And just kind of shoot whatever's happening, like have fun with it. It's not like, you know, it's a no stress thing. And I think really the creativity comes with that, is being able to put that into a final film. If what they're capturing is like, you know, valuable enough to put in a film, if that makes sense.
Yeah. As far as the wedding day goes, I think the creativity can come with, I think it's something that you have to practice to be quick with, to be faster at being creative. You might hear something that's said early on in the day and you'll quickly realize like this is a kind of a running joke with, I don't know, maybe it's one of the groomsmen or something, is like, it's like a running inside joke between the wedding party. And you can somehow take that and spin it, and maybe you get a shot of that person doing that inside joke or whatever it is that's I don't know, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a example of something like that. I feel like there was something recently that we did, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to, I don't know, keeping your ears open, keeping your eyes peeled. I think that's where, when people are getting videographers, it's one thing that I feel like I've been really bad at lately is when the ceremony and toast are happening, I'm so focused on the cameras and like getting my composition right that I'm not fully tuned into what's being said. And I think I need to go back to really paying attention to what's being said, because I've found myself in multiple situations where something really significant was said during a toast, and then I didn't go and get footage of that or somehow create a connection in the footage that I captured, which is like huge bummer when you're editing. You're like, gosh, why didn't I listen when I was filming that? I could have literally just filmed the grandpa or something while he was sitting there.
Yeah. I think,
so I think
that's definitely...
that is something that I'm trying to get back into this coming year, is really paying attention to the key words and key things from the day, to make better connections when I'm editing.
Yeah, and I don't even know how to practice that otherwise, just being mindful of it during the day. Because like what you said, I mean, we have so many things going on all at once when we're shooting a wedding. Audio, lighting, cameras, tripods, like everything, where it's very consuming of like our mental that entire day, especially during the ceremony and toasts. So what I'm trying to figure out, what is a good way, like, is the only way to practice that just to be mindful of that? Like, okay, everything's good, everything's set, like keep that on the side of your mind, but also like really focus in on like, what are some key points that they're talking about? What are some repetitive things that they've mentioned? Like, I know a lot of the time, like, oh, they met on Bumble, or they met on a dating app, and multiple people talk about that. Like, how can you get creative in that sense? I think you've done that in a video. Someone messaged can't remember if the bride or the groom messaged on Facebook, and you put the text on screen from like that very first conversation or whatever. Just like things like that.
Yeah, there's some things that you can do in post to kind of help save you a little bit if you weren't able to get shots of that or anything. But yeah, I think just being prepared for things like toast and ceremony, like setting up your tripods and stuff, and knowing exactly, like if you know they're not going to do personal vows, as long as you get your side cameras like composed properly, you really shouldn't have to move them at all. As long as you have all your cameras like in a great position, you should be able to just be present and listen to what's happening. I think it just comes with repetition. Over time, things just start to happen naturally. Like you're naturally able to place the cameras exactly without having to think too much about it.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be that little underlying anxiety of like, oh, did my camera shut off? Oh, did they move a little bit? So is the composition off? And I think that's always going to be there, but it's just being very mindful about paying attention. Because like you said, yes, we watch all this stuff back multiple times when we're editing, but if someone mentioned something about grandpa or Faith and Grant's wedding that you helped me with, where I actually met Lauren, there was something said about Faith's grandma who loved Willie Nelson, and then she got out on the stage or on the dance floor and danced to On the Road Again or whatever the song was. And like, obviously we're going to capture that. We're going to capture that regardless, because that was just wholesome and very authentic. But just little things like that, maybe not necessarily little things, but just doing our best to pay attention to everything that's happening, and especially everything that's being said.
Yeah. Now, as far as the creative process goes, so like I think really the pre-creative process and the actual on the wedding day creative process, I think that just comes down to planning ahead, like knowing your couples, planning ahead, like knowing, oh, this couple is like really fun and very, like their love is very goofy and very sarcastic. So knowing that, like, oh, I should probably come to the wedding with some like pose or like comments that I can say to them to maybe spark some laughter can always help you. But I think there's not really a ton more that you can do outside of that. I think practicing creativity and practicing, I'm trying to really reiterate this lately, because I feel like lately I've been doing a lot of consuming and a lot less of disconnecting, which I need to do more. But I think practicing being bored more often can really help your creativity on a wedding day. But I think what's really significant is the creative process and the post-production side, like when you leave the wedding. And I think this is something that I really want to start practicing more of, is when I'm leaving the wedding or when something happens, make note of it somewhere, whether that's in a note app, and being like, these two connections work together, or maybe there was like some reference to, I don't know, a movie on the wedding day that kept getting brought up, and you need to make note, because sometimes it can be hard to remember those things when you have multiple projects to work on.
But yeah, definitely go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, when we're brainstorming, when we come across something, when we start editing, I don't even know how we would go about describing this, but how do you start thinking of ideas? I mean, this could be bringing this back to the bridal video that you did just recently.
Yeah.
Where were you getting the ideas for, I'm going to throw like some photos on there and like, I don't know.
Honestly, so for that specific reel and like the use of photos, that was actually problem solving, because I didn't have enough footage to like make the certain amount of cuts that I wanted to make, and like the high energy, fast cut sort of thing. But I wasn't willing to like switch up how the video was going to be. So that creative spark actually came from problem solving. It's okay, I want it to be this way. I don't have the things in my wheelhouse to make that happen, but there was a photographer there. I can use some of those photos to throw over, like on this big slow-mo shot in the background sort of thing. I think that honestly, that might be where most of like over 50%, 60% of the creative ideas I think that I have come from that problem solving aspect. Like, I want this to work. I don't have the way to make it work easily or fluently or whatever. So then you think, okay, how can I still do this just in a different way? And that's kind of how, those creative muscles really start problem working.
Solving.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a really good point that I didn't even really think of. It's just like problem solving is like creative problem solving is like what we do quite a bit. So especially in the post-production side of things. But
yeah, so when looking at a wedding video, what do you think? How do you think the creative process works with when you're building out a highlight film? Like where does the creativity really start to be brought in? Like obviously first you're like, when you're editing, the first step in the process of editing is like consuming the content that you recorded. So you're like literally just sifting and sifting. You're like, okay, this is what I got at the ceremony. Yeah. You're finding all the little audio bits that you think are significant, saving them, putting them somewhere, whether that's on a timeline. Like, well, I assume you do that. I'd put all the audio I can use onto its own timeline. Mm-hmm. So you have it all on a timeline. Where do you think that, like, this isn't something that I think about very often. I feel like maybe thinking about it would help us understand or even be better at it. Where do you think the creative process starts, and how do you think it works with creating a story?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts as soon as you start sifting through all that audio and looking through all of it, because I know it's not really like we're constantly thinking about like trying to make all these connections, but if your best man talks about the first time the groom told him about like the bride, and the maid of honor talks about the same thing the first time the bride told her about the groom, finding ways and connections that work within telling a story. So I know you've had multiple, like you've had one. The one that I think about is like every single person that gave a toast, and I even think during the ceremony they talked about like how they met on Bumble, and you turned that into like a bit the hook of the entire story. Like all the dialogue, the hook was how they met, because you had so many different audio pieces from different people where it just kept it incredibly engaging, and I mean, yeah, creative too. I don't know. That's a good question to like think about though. What, I'm curious your thoughts on that. Like where do you start seeing that?
I think the creative process definitely starts with while you're consuming the content that you're trying to, like while you're going through all of the content that you recorded, you kind of have this like open mind where you're like, where can these pieces, it's like, I think Joni, I'm assuming it was Joni that pieced together, since she does a lot of the editing, she made a comment on a video that I had where I talked about like we're solving an equation when we're editing. And Joni said it's like Tetris. She always envisions playing Tetris. So it's like these things, as things are like being consumed or as things are coming into our brain, this piece is like falling down and you're like, wait, that piece could go here in the story. And so like, I think that might be where it really starts, is as you're consuming it, when you start building it. So there might be like, maybe a hook, or somebody says something at a speech that is, it doesn't really add to the story, but it is a great way to illustrate the couple's personality, showcase how they are as a couple, and just the general vibe of the day. That might be a great, like, oh, this is going to be a great starting point for the video to kind of be like, this is what you should expect for this couple.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like it just kind of happens organically though too? Like I feel like there's a lot of times where I like look like I'll look at the end of, I finish a video and I look at it and I'm like, gosh, this is a really good story. And I think back, I was like, I don't remember piecing any of this together. It feels like it just like randomly happened. I feel like that happens to me more often than it does, like more often than not. It just kind of, I mean, I know it's the work that we're putting in to do it, but like just subconsciously it's happening and it's formulating, and it's, I don't know. I'm just curious if you feel that way too, where it's just like, oh, it just happened.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some sort of like underlying magic that's happening somewhere where it just kind of like you somehow get things to land the way you want them to, but you don't know how it happened, whether that's the dialogue that you wanted to put in a specific spot somehow fit perfectly with the next dialogue or inside the piece of music. I mean, there's like so many moving things that are happening. Sometimes you're like, how did this all work out in the story?
Yeah. I don't get it. It's literally, it's magic. Like when we say that the magic happens in post, it literally, there is some sort of magic that happens.
But I feel like that magic doesn't just come naturally. Like it takes a lot of trial and error. I don't know. It still blows my mind what we're able to do with audio and how we can trim it up and make it sound like, make a speech sound better than it did when we heard it. And how we can make it fit perfectly into a small piece of instrumental music. And
and to kind of go back to like, it's, yes, so there is some random like magicness to it, but the story is almost always there. You just have to go find it. And once you find it, I think once you find the story that you're looking for, or those parts or those moments or whatever, that's where the magic happens. That's where it starts to formulate exactly how it's supposed to. I don't know. I noticed you had a note in here about like chronological order versus like, what was it? What'd you have in here? like chronological storytelling or like mixing moments to like build the emotion and stuff. And like honestly what we would call like a cookie cutter film would be more so the chronological order. First shots are them getting ready, then it's them putting on their dress and their suit, and then it's the first look, and then it's this, and then it's that, and then, you know, so on and so forth. But when you like look, when you're looking for the story that needs to be told, when you're looking for the story that needs to be told, that's when you can start mixing these pieces together. So gosh, it's hard to think of examples off the top of your head, but like say you're at a wedding and there's a speech, the best man says something super powerful, and then you end the film with the bride saying like the same similar powerful thing like in her vows or something. Like it doesn't have to be in the same order of the way that things go, but yeah, it's a very complex topic too, like talking about creative process, like storytelling, like how things go. But I'm just chalking it up to magic. Once you find find an idea, it just happens.
So what else do we have on here? So
another thing you have in here, and a huge part of storytelling and like the emotions and the feeling and the whatever of the story is music. Like music is it's what sets the tone. It's what makes the video flow how it does. Music is so valuable in the jobs that we do. So we can talk on that unless that's enough.
Music, you said? Yeah, we can talk about music.
Yeah, since we were on the topic of storytelling techniques, music is one of the biggest techniques with like how we're going to get the viewer to feel how we want them to feel.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's tricky. Lately I've been going through the audio and stuff first and pulling all that stuff, and then I find the music, and I feel like it's taking me a little bit longer because you're like, how I need to find a song that's going to fit these music or fit these dialogue pieces. And I feel like beforehand I would go with a song in mind, and then I would make the dialogue fit that music.
Do you do this? So Tim showed me this, and I think it's absolutely genius. So like you drag all your audio you want to use on the timeline, and you kind of organize it in a way, like what fits well with each other, like we were talking about. But then he opens MusicBed, hits play on a song, goes back into Premiere, and then hits play on the timeline. So like it's not going to be exactly how it is, but they're saying everything that they're going to be saying like over the music, and you can almost just get a better feel for it. I've started doing that.
Interesting idea.
And it's actually been incredibly helpful because it's easier. I'm not going to say it's going to give you your answer right away, but it's easier to be like, this could work or this couldn't work. You know?
I do that with trying to figure out a song I can transition into. I will like test. I'll like play my video, and then I'll like open MusicBed and I'll start to test different songs and stuff. I'll like loop it and then test different songs. Mm-hmm. But I haven't tried it with dialogue. I'll have to give that a shot.
Yeah, I don't know. It was super interesting. So shout out Tim Shivy Media.
Yeah, music is tricky because I don't know what it is, but certain songs you just hear them and you're like, this is a good song, but like it wouldn't work with how it breaks up like the like the parts where you would want to put dialogue and stuff like that. You just, I don't know, you hear it and you just know, yeah, this isn't going to work or this isn't going to work. And I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's
when we're going to do our editing challenge at the end of the month, we should do two different ones. One where we got to do everything, but then the other one is we already have the song chose for us and the footage. So we're forced into it to see how the end result comes. I think that would be cool.
That's a really good point that I have not thought about. Like, what is it? What is it when we're listening to a song that we're like, yeah, it's just not going to work?
And like someone else can send you music and you're like, yeah, that's a good song, but like, it's just not going to work with what I have.
do we just do it so much where we just kind of know? Like, have we just become so accustomed to knowing what's going to work, what's not going to work? Or like, is there actually something, some underlying thing, some detail that's like, yeah, no, that's not going to fit?
It's something with the pacing and I don't know, just the overall, the build of the song and how it's broken up. I think it's one of those things that we've just naturally come over 5-6 years of editing multiple videos. We've just come to learn what music works and what doesn't.
Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, over like 6 years, we've just been editing videos nonstop. Like,
yeah,
we've spent
crazy.
A lot of time in Premiere Pro.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I still love editing, though. I think it's a lot of fun.
It's fun when it goes well. It can go super well. Like what we're talking about, like you find those moments that happen and it just kind of magically appears and works out. But those are the fun times. The hard times are when nothing seems to be working out and you just have to try even harder to, formulate something, some type of story, some type of whatever. But that's also a challenge in itself, which is also in a way fun and challenging, like challenging in a fun way or in a good way. But
yeah. So I think this is a really big one that we probably run into more often than not. Like, we probably run into this every single video. Every video we make, we run into this, even if it's just very subtle or very, very short amount of time, is a creative block. And I think subconsciously I just do things.
I don't think I've ever had a short creative block, to be honest.
I think it's creative blocks when I'm trying to overcome them. I don't really think about, I got to overcome this. I think something happens and I figure I get over it. But what sort of things do you think you do to hopefully get over a creative block?
I walk away.
And what's some examples too? Like what?
Okay. Yeah. So let's just stick with the music thing. So say I'm editing a highlight. So a full film can be 10 minutes, whatever. And I've got a killer intro. Intro's done. It's perfect. I've got the dialogue laid out for the next part of the film, but I can't find music. And I'm just stuck. I have something in my head that I know would work, but I can't find it. If I spend so much time doing that, I'm going to run into a creative block, and then it's going to start affecting the rest of the film, not just the music parts. But I will physically get up from my desk or wherever, and I will leave. Whether it's just going out to the living room, whether it's going to grab a cup of coffee at the coffee shop, whether it's even taking a couple hours break or even taking the rest of the day off. There is nothing beneficial that's going to happen to the films that I'm working on if for me, this is just for me, if I force myself through a creative block, like if I just stay there editing and just like try every single thing, that's not a way that it works for me. So I have to physically remove myself from the project, whether it's 10 minutes to a couple hours to the rest of the day. And then I come back with a fresh mind, fresh eyes. And I typically will go on a walk. If it's nice out, which crazy, beginning of February, it's like 61 degrees out right now. But yeah, like going for a walk, just doing something else to occupy my mind. So when I come back, I'm not as stuck. And then I can figure out different solutions or different things to work on until that thing just happens. But yeah, I mean, that's what I do. Just removing myself from that situation. And I do that in other aspects of my life too. Like if I'm getting super angry or something, like I will remove myself from whatever's happening, go like chill out, reset my mind, then come back. And if it needs to be, if it needs to be talked about, then it'll be talked about or whatever the situation be. But that's just what I find helpful. What about you?
Yeah, I think definitely you have to step away for sure. Sometimes I find what I'll do is I'll export what I have complete and up to the point where I'm like stuck, and I will export it so that the out point is just a little bit past where I'm stuck at, and I will go and I'll put it on my phone, I'll leave the computer, whatever, and I will like watch it over and over again, listen to it without watching it, to just feel like I can try to figure out what if I were to anticipate what's next, can I like spark something in my head that I can envision from not even necessarily knowing what footage I have. Like maybe I'm like, oh, you know what? I think the dad first look could actually go right there next. And then that might spark a thing where I'm like, okay, so then I need to figure out how to transition the music right there. But there's some times where I'm like, looking at it isn't really helping me at all, and so I will have to completely disconnect from it, almost like I need to go and generate some new ideas or consume some more stuff to hopefully generate some new ideas. Whether that means going to watch a movie that's not related to that wedding, or opening a different project, or sometimes I think listening to music can be very inspirational. You might hear something and it can spark something. But yeah, creative blocks are terrible.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes creative blocks can come strictly from just being, you're just mentally exhausted. Like you've reached your mental capacity for that time, and you just need to recharge. I think it can be as simple as like you just don't have the energy to reach that next creative idea. Like you literally just need to like stop trying. I mean, it's an exhausting thing to be creative. And so I think some days you just reach that limit.
When you think about it too, like so that creative block, I think, comes from, like you said, just being so mentally focused on what you're doing. Like as a videographer, as a filmmaker, whatever you want to call us, when you're editing, that is it. That is what you are entirely focused on. That is all your brain power. You are in it. That is it. For example, if you are a photographer or if you are an accountant or whatever, you can be listening to music. You can have a podcast on. You can have TV on in the background or something, where you can obviously be doing the hard work that it is, like clearly, but you have something else that's sort of stimulating your brain. So I don't know if you necessarily get as exhausted or as mentally fatigued as we do. But I'm not saying there's no creative block with photography or I said accounting just because that's what Lauren does. But I don't know. It's just the weird difference of like, I envy photographers that can listen to a podcast where they're ripping through these edits of photos. And again, to reiterate, not that editing photos is easy. I can't do it. I can't take photos either. But they just have that luxury of being able to have music on, podcast, maybe the TV in the background or just something while we have headphones on directly staring at our screen. Nothing can be distracting. Otherwise, we're not going to get any work done. And yeah.
You know what it is too? I think creativity requires so much of our attention that if you have any small amount of attention towards anything else, whether that's stress, like you have something going on in your personal life, like for me, if something's happening with Lucy, if she's really sick and I'm needing to like pay attention to her, to make sure she's breathing okay or making sure everything's going on with her, if I have any sort of attention to that, it essentially is just canceling out my creativity, because creativity requires like all of your attention. It's like creativity is like driving a car, but if anything comes within your field of view, I'm trying to think of an analogy for what creativity is like. It's like, I don't know, driving a car, but like anything that comes into your is like putting on a blindfold or something.
Like you're trying to get from point A to point B in your car, but you see a puppy on the side of the road or something like that, and then you have to stop and you have to take care of that. Or you go and then you're running out of gas, so you have to stop and you have to fill up with gas, and then you keep going again, and then you're hungry, and then you have to stop and then deal with that. Rather than just getting from point A to point B is pretty impossible to do with all the, the distractions that we have, or, and that analogy works just fine, I think. 'Cause like, if you have to get gas, you have to get gas. You have to take care of Lucy when she's sick. Like, that's just the way that it is. There's going to be those distractions, but
I think creativity is just very sensitive. Like, if it doesn't have your full attention, then it's not going to be there fully. So like, I think it's probably, if you do run into creative block, it's most likely because there's something else going on, or there's something that you need to get rid of. Whether that's, you have a movie on and you're distracted by it, you either turn the movie off and you try to focus your attention on what's happening, or maybe your house is a mess and you're like just constantly thinking about that, and then you need to go clean your house so you can get back into it. So that's no longer at the top of your list, because creativity needs to be like at the top of your list if you want it to work to its full potential.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also think energy levels, your fear of failure, like your imposter syndrome, can really mess with you. Creatively, you can just be like, this just isn't good enough, and you can just constantly be doubting yourself.
Yeah, there's just so many creative obstacles out there that make it hard. It makes it hard to get from point A to point B. Just whether it's creative block, imposter syndrome, real life situations that you have to take care of. Like, I think, isn't there a study? I know with me, I guess it's like, it takes me at least 20 to 30 minutes to get into like a state, what we call the flow state. So like a state of just complete focus. And then when you get taken out of that by whatever distraction it is, it even takes longer to get back to where you were. So
yeah, that's the nightmare of our job. That's the nightmare. Yeah. Like, if anything interrupts you, even if it's as simple as you got to go answer the door. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like waking up and you have to get back to your dream.
Yeah. Like, no, and there's nothing more frustrating than that too. Like, especially when you are in a good flow and you're like, heck yeah, like we're getting so much done. Like, it's flowing and it's coming together perfectly. And then a distraction happens, and then you go take care of it. You come back, and then you cannot get back to that spot sometimes. And it's just, yeah. Editing, being creative. It's a lot.
But it's very rewarding when you are.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to practicing, like, creativity is a muscle. You have to practice. You need to consume with caution, like consume content, but there's like a point where you're like, that's enough content. You got to stop and let your mind like think a little bit of all the stuff that you've consumed. So I think which is something that I really, so like when I put Lucy to bed at night, I try really hard to not, like when I'm rocking her to sleep, and you sit there for like 20-30 minutes sometimes, and I try really hard to not take my phone or use my phone while I'm in there, and I essentially just sit there and I'm like just thinking and it's a very refreshing feeling when you're all done doing that, when you're disconnected from everything. But yeah, I'm trying to practice that more, but I think disconnecting can really help be creative.
Yeah. I think I said this in our last episode too, and I've just been doing it more. Like, I've almost completely stopped listening to music or podcasts at the gym. Like, at first it was like I'd do it here and there, like maybe 2 days out of the week, and I'm working out maybe 6 days a week. So it used to be just like 2 times. I wouldn't put my headphones in, wouldn't do anything. I would just force myself to be with my thoughts. And, because like working out, weightlifting, it's not necessarily fun. It's not like, it's like almost a little boring. It's challenging, which is the fun part, but being bored in that, like, I do find myself thinking about video ideas or the wedding I'm working on right now, and it does help me maybe not generate the best of ideas, but it helps me like shift my focus onto it, which I think starts to build up into that flow state. So if I'm working out at 6 a.m, no headphones, I'm thinking about Gina and Austin, like where their film's going to go. That's like the little steps to take for when I sit down at 8:30, 9 o'clock to start editing or whatever time. Then I'm like almost at that flow state already. And it's because I wasn't distracted by, my mind wasn't really consumed by anything else. It was just consumed by like what I have to do, like when I'm done with working out or whatever. So that'd be a tip for anybody if they struggle with hitting that flow state or creative block or whatever. Like, just try to make yourself bored, or just try to make yourself think about what you need to do. Don't be constantly stimulated by music, podcasts, and that stuff's great. I love music, I love podcasts, but
I think being creative in other things too, like I mean, if the only thing that we do that's creative is wedding films, I feel like that can limit our creativity a little bit. Try to do other things, whether that's drawing or making music or I don't know, something that you have to use your creativity for something other than weddings can be very helpful. So I think like the thing that we're going to do at the end of the month, the like little creative editing challenge we're going to do, it'll be fun to edit something that's not wedding related. I think that'll be very refreshing, I think.
What Ben's talking about too, at the end of the month, we're going to Colorado Springs with some other wedding videographers that we were in that mastermind course back in 2022 with. I've had the luxury of meeting all of them and hanging out with a couple of them outside of the retreat and stuff, but this will be Ben's first time with everybody. But since we're all creatives, we're all video editors, we're going to do some type of video editing challenge where we all have the same footage and maybe even the same music. We don't really know exactly what it's going to look like, and we're going to sit down for an hour or whatever the time be and just see what we all can come up with. And I think it'll just be fun. Ben and I have done that like once or twice before, and it was fun. So yeah. Is there anything else we want to chat about? Or
I don't think so. I think that's probably pretty good. We could
since we're not rolling on audition, I have no idea how long this has been.
It's been an hour.
Oh, okay. Well,
so that's
cool.
Good.
Let's do the old inspirational thingy thing. What you got? What's inspired you since the last episode? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
I feel like Lauren and I have got to a point, I mean, ever since Lucy, like when you have a kid, like things just start to get put on the back burner in your life, whether that's how you organize things or your finances and your, just your, I don't know, general things in your life just start to build up a little bit, and you eventually get to a point where you're like, this needs to be taken care of. And that's kind of where Lauren and I are. So the last like week and a half or so, 2 weeks, Lauren and I have been kind of on this, I don't know, we've just been getting rid of so many things, taking trips to the dump. Yesterday, me and Lauren tackled our bedroom, and we went through like all of our clothes, and we probably have like 200 empty hangers now of things that had clothes on them that we're going to take to like Goodwill. And it just feels so good to have a bedroom now that there's not things in there that you're like never going to wear again. There's, I don't know, we cleaned under things that haven't ever been cleaned under. And we're just kind of on this, and we want to really change our finances over the next year. So like I'm going to see this year, I think I was telling you, like I really want to see how long I can go without feeling like I need to buy new gear. Like I have a great list of gear that I have that I could film weddings. for a long time with. Like I need to stop thinking I need to get like all this new gear. Mm-hmm. There's obvious things that I would replace if I needed to, but just things like that. I've just kind of been motivated to. We've gotten to a point in our life where we're like, we need to get more organized, and we need to live a life that we want Lucy to learn from, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're just trying to make some big changes in our life, and hopefully in the long run it will make editing and being creative more I don't know, easier, I guess. It'll just be easier.
Yeah. By the way, you should take your clothes, not necessarily Goodwill. You can take them to like a is it a refinement store? I don't know what it would be called. That might be totally
like
wrong.
Plato's Closet or something?
Plato's Closet or something, because you could make money off some
That's
of your
good to
clothes. I think maybe it was Plato's Closet like a couple years ago, like when I moved into the apartment I'm in now. I took a couple boxes there and I made like $100. So
interesting.
Yeah, and then I just took the rest to Goodwill, like because they will turn some away. And then I was like, okay. Then I just donated those. But unless you're like,
I'll probably have to go through and decide. There's definitely I definitely pulled out shirts that I'm like, yeah, I'm never wearing that shirt again, but I've never worn it either. So I'm like, that's brand new. Whoever's gonna get this at Goodwill.
Like yeah. Yeah, but just
we're trying. Like we're in this thing where we're like, we have a hard time throwing things away. I wouldn't say we're hoarders, but like, we get something and things like cards, birthday cards. Like, I don't know why we feel like we need to keep them. But like, you look at them once and then, unless there's some really genuine like message on it, I don't know why we hold on to it. Just stuff like that builds up, or like we have all these, just a ton of, we have so many pots and pans that we never use. Why are we holding on to those? So we're just trying to get rid of things that we don't use and someone else could clearly use them.
Yeah, some decluttering.
So yeah, what about you?
I've been thinking, I could totally just rip you off right where you were in my apartment, my room, bathroom, office, closet. Everything has been just a pit recently. So yesterday I did some work in the morning, had a couple meetings, and then I took the afternoon and I just like deep cleaned everything and got organized. And I feel just, like you said, very decluttered in my own head and obviously in my living space too. But something that's inspired me recently,
I don't know. I feel like you've really been crushing the content game lately. I don't know if that's anything that, whatever you're doing with all these other, like the clients that you have and the stuff that the businesses and stuff. I feel like you've been crushing the content game. So I don't know if there's something that you're doing there that's been inspiring lately. Just changing the wedding from like doing all wedding to like actually doing stuff that isn't
honestly,
wedding.
It might be that. It might be like what we were talking about with the breaks. I now have a reason and clients and a reason to not put all of my time and energy into these weddings. And before anyone goes crazy, like that is why I'm scaling back to 10 weddings a year. I would never do that if I had 30, 25, but yeah, it's like taking a break. Doing something different from the wedding is giving me that creative inspiration, I guess. Something else too, which is kind of funny. So I was watching the Grammys with Lauren the other night, I think Sunday night. And so like she's a big Taylor Swift fan. I mean, so am I. I like Taylor Swift. Didn't really have any thoughts like pre-Lauren. But so that she's like building up this whole thing, like she's been dropping all these albums like Taylor's version, and she changed her like profile picture to black and white, and like a bunch of her friends did. Travis Kelce, her boyfriend, did, and everyone's like, she's gonna drop like Reputation Taylor's version or whatever, and it was like a black and white album and all this stuff, and everybody on the internet, TikTok, everything was talking about, oh my gosh, she's gonna announce this. She wins this Grammy, and then she announces a completely new album instead, like one that no one's ever heard before, and I was like, that is kind of cool and inspiring in a way. Like, how you build this up to make everybody think something's going to happen, and then you just throw a curveball and it's something even better. I don't know how to incorporate that into my real life or into my films or whatever, but I don't know. I saw that. I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. Like, she's very smart, like marketing. She's like a marketing genius. But
yeah, that is really cool. And I'm actually really excited to hear that new album when it does come out.
I actually pre-ordered the record.
Isn't it like April or something it's coming out?
Yeah. Post Malone is on a track. I'm excited about that. Did you see that?
Really?
Yeah, he's featured on one of them. He shared the song list after she did. So, yeah, I ordered the album, vinyl, and excited to. I have no idea what it's gonna be like, but
do you think it's gonna do? Do you think it'll perform better than her current newest album?
I don't know. I mean, she's like probably the most famous.
Has she
person
made
in the world
new music in a while?
I think she just won Album of the Year.
I mean, obviously she re-recorded a bunch of her stuff, but
I think Midnights. Dude, if Lauren's listening to this, she's gonna be so proud of me. I think Midnights was made at like the end of 2022, and that's the record that just won Album of the Year, and like she just made history or whatever. But I think this one, I don't know. She's so famous. She's always been so famous, but like now she's all over. She's in the NFL world. She's in the music world, and not like. So I feel
she's worldwide. She is
worldwide.
Mrs. Worldwide, dude.
yeah. Her. I mean, if her and Travis don't work out, it's gotta be her and Pitbull here pretty soon. But yeah, I think it's gonna do crazy numbers. Like,
it is a crazy time to live.
Yeah, I can't even say like I'm not like a Swiftie. Like, I just like her music now and her songwriting, and like I said before, Lauren, I was kind of indifferent on it. But now I just pre-ordered the album. I have no idea what it sounds like. I have no idea the music that's going to be on there. And like, I honestly did it for me, not necessarily for Lauren, even though she's going to reap the benefits of like listening to, the album. But, yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. She's just so famous. It's going to do so well. It's going to blow up.
I feel like you have to, though. It's kind of like you have to order that because it's like living in a time where like when Michael Jackson was really popular, like,
yeah,
the number of people that attended his concerts and just, I don't know, this is just one of those things that like 10, 20 years in the future, people are going to look back at like, oh, remember the Taylor Swift phenomena that just freaking took over the world.
Yeah.
There's going to be some incredible video about her. There's going to be some amazing movie made in the future about her.
Yeah, like
they're gonna like remake her life into this incredible documentary.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, there's already documentaries.
I really want to see the tour like video. I haven't watched it yet, but I think it's coming to streaming services, isn't it?
I think it's on Prime, maybe. I don't know. Lauren and I want to watch. I mean, Lauren went to the concert, but yeah, we wanna watch it again. I want to watch it, but.
Yeah.
Are you getting that same thing?
All right. Well, are we done?
Were you getting the same thing of the connection issues?
Not yet, but there is a little bit of a lag.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's a perfect time to kind of wrap it up. So, yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Just two dudes just talk about.
Yeah, if you listen, like genuinely, just like write a quick comment. I just want to know if you're there. I just want to know if you're there. Like, I just want to know if anybody listens to this.
I know YouTube's telling us we get views and Spotify's telling us we get listens, but it's hard to believe when you guys aren't leaving some feedback. So, as always, shout out Travis, and thanks for listening, watching, and viewing, and hanging out. So, we'll see you in the next one.
Peace and blessings.